Hello, Tiffany here with Cars Crafty Creations. Today's project is for Pajama Crafter Stamps, and I'm going to be using their new stamp set that came out last month and turn it into a cute baby decor piece. So the things I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using this paper pack. Now pay no mind to the cover right there. The paper pack is actually called Emerald Isle, and it is a bunch of different types of patterns with green and different green tones. You can get it on their website, but I'm just thumbing through the patterns trying to pick out what I am going to use, because we're going to take these pattern papers and cover the blocks with them, just to give some more interest to the blocks so they're not just plain wood blocks. Then we're going to be using this stamp set. This one is new, in our Hearts Always stamp. It's kind of like a what do you call it? Sympathy and like comfort stamp. And we're going to be using the florals from that. And then we're going to be using Savanna Baby stamp. This is also new. It came out last month in the February release, and it has a lot of really cute little like kind of jungle safari savanna animals. So I went ahead and I pre-colored everything before the project, just because coloring takes quite a while, and when you're trying to show a mixed media project, it's already kind of long as it is. But what I did to color those was I actually used Prismacolor pencils. I really like using Prismacolor pencils because they have a more waxy lead, I don't know if it's lead, more waxy color, and you can blend them really well without having to be so aggressive with it. But if you wanted to have a good dark solid color, you could use a lot of pressure and they will blend together because of their waxy makeup, I guess. But for the most part, I just colored them with the color pencils and just did layer after layer after layer, and would progressively get a little more pressure onto it so that it would blend and become more solid. So all I did here is I cut out some 2x2 squares of the pattern paper that I had picked out, and I'm going to cover 5 sides of the block. So I would say sides, front, top and bottom, and then the back. And then we're going to actually paint the words and the border of the block with some acrylic markers. But after I put these on, so I like to use tacky glue, and then I use my bone folder to really push and adhere that paper. I also like to kind of squish the paper and move it around before I set it in place, because as you know, with a liquid glue like that, you can end up seeing the texture of the glue, like the line of glue that you've put down. So I've learned that if you smush it and use your bone folder, it really smooths it out so you do not get those lines. So I highly recommend that. As all of my wood projects, I used my sanding block to sand the edges of the block, and that's going to take away any like overlapping paper that went kind of beyond the edge, and it's going to give it a more finished look. So these are my new acrylic markers. They're not Posca or anything fancy. I really was just trying out acrylic markers, and so this is just from Hobby Lobby, and I think it's a good assorted pack. I really like the fine tip on them. I was really like wondering, I stood in that aisle for quite a while trying to decide, do I want like just the bullet nib, or do I want this brush tip? And I was like, if I have the brush tip, then the brush is likely going to fray and not be very nice. If I have a bullet tip, then I can't get into small places. So I really like overthought this whole process of buying these markers, which I don't know if other crafters do that or not, but I certainly can make something difficult, as well as buying markers, making them a difficult purchase. Anyways, I love them. I think they work really well. And so I just kind of used them to finish off our blocks so they weren't just the plain wood. And it gives them all a good color to go along with our color palette with our little animals. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to arrange them in a way that I don't know, they all kind of have their own space. But I needed a base to put these on, and so I have these little door hangers that I've had for an eternity, and I actually only have 2 left, which I might be a little bit sad about when that happens, because they do make really good bases for you to build projects onto. And I know it has a hole in there, but I filled it with chipboard, so there is no problem with it falling or anything like that. So we're just going to arrange these blocks on here, and yeah, I'm not going to arrange them like that. I'm going to arrange them like this, so that when it's sitting on a shelf, then you can actually see and read it. So that is the idea. And then I'm just going to take a whole bunch of glue and just stick those on there. I did have some of them angled. Well, they are actually all angled because I can't do much in a straight line. That's difficult for my creative brain to function with. So, and it gives them a little more character to have kind of at these different angles and levels and stuff like that. So that was kind of the goal. That was my vision, and that's what I'm doing. After I get those all adhered down, then we are going to start placing our little colored animals. And I'm still trying to figure out the best way to film building something like this. Lots of coaster usage, as always, just to prop it up so we can all see. And then my head, of course, so that I can see. So we can all see in one way or the other. But I'm going to adhere this to the back. Kind of creates like another layer and some height. So I thought it was really an interesting idea to stick this back there. It, like I said, it doesn't come in the same stamp set. It's a separate stamp set, but it can be used in so many different ways. And I just thought this is great jungle type greenery, like a vine, even though it's not a vine. But I just really enjoyed it and thought it was gonna go perfect with these little guys. So now I do a lot of weird things to get things to be what I want them to be. And I am all about levels, as my husband says, levels to levels. And levels apply here in crafting world as well as our everyday life. But I wanted to have where some of them were popped up. I really didn't want it right up against the block, so I put the foam tape on. And then later on, I struggle with the elephant because I can't figure out how I want to attach the elephant. Or in fact, how I'm going to attach any of these because they are going to be freestanding. Because I can't do anything simple. We're going to have these freestanding. And I really didn't, I mean, I think I could have used lots of foam to build up behind them. That really wasn't where my brain went. It went to creating this little gusset. So I just folded some paper, some scraps, and glued it to the bottom of everything. So it creates these little gussets to adhere down and also keeps them upright. Now the elephant did kind of annoy me in the sense that it kept falling backwards. You can see I'm pushing it up here. So my solution there was some foam squares. I put some foam squares behind his head, and then they stuck to the block, and then he was sitting the way I wanted him to be. I also used it on the words so that I could actually have them standing up, and then I die cut out some grass from just a die cut I had in my stash from some green cardstock, and we're going to go ahead and put that in front of our little characters here. That way they have like some grounding. You know how much I like all of my stuff to be grounded, and so that gives me that grounding that I like to see. So I go ahead and use that gusset on everything. So the gusset is actually behind the zebra's foot so that the zebra is standing up, and same with the little lion. I had a few things from my stash, like some greenery and stuff, because I felt like the middle just kind of had this like plainness to it that I wasn't really okay with. So I just used some of my stash greenery to add in there. And then these are actually my favorite flowers to work with. They're from my stash as well. You could use any flowers, but they also kind of, I use them to kind of fill in, not really fill in, I do fill in, but also to break up those harsh edges to the grass, if that makes sense. That way it doesn't look like I just chopped it off, which I did, but you know, you don't want it to look like that. And so I just go around and start gluing these all over the place, just in whatever way I think they should be. See how it kind of like draws your eye away from just this harsh grass that's sitting there? That's kind of how I envision this playing into the scene. And then I just go ahead and keep adding these things in there, gluing them on. I did bring in another sentiment over there. The one that says sweet, it didn't die cut so well, so I won't be using that one. But the baby little one I am going to use as well, and I will pop that up using my kind of gusset process. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with this project. I think it really came out how I envisioned it. And, you know, for being a mixed media artist and just using things that I find in the stores, you can really use stamp sets to bring those things to life. Stamp sets can be used beyond card making or beyond scrapbook pages or place tags. They can be used for a lot of things, and this is one of them that I thought was really cute, that you can actually make and give to somebody at a baby shower or for a home decor piece in a baby room, or however you want to, but it can go beyond just making a card. And so I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions related to this project or any others that I have done for Pajama Crafters, leave a comment below and I'll gladly respond. But head on over to PajamaCrafterStamps.com and check out all of the fun and adorable stamp sets that they have that you can create to the end of time with. Alright everyone, I hope you had a good time, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.